In this video, I will show you how to reinstall the hook assembly on your Singer Featherweight. So first, let's go over the parts that you will need. The hook assembly is this part here that actually has the jib on it. You'll need that. You will need the bobbin case base, the thread loop guard, and you'll have two little screws. One is going to secure down the jib after we install the bobbin case base, and then this one is what will secure the thread loop guard to the back of the hook assembly. You will also need two set screws when we secure the hook assembly to the shaft. So first we need to assemble this. Before we start putting everything back together, let's look at a few of these parts. The thread loop guard, I talked to you about this before. You'll have a side where the part number is stamped, and then you'll have the other side. There's sort of like a raised bevel portion, and this is where we will notice a lot of grooves being cut into the thread loop guard over time, maybe from needle strikes, maybe from thread getting caught there. Either way, if this is rough to the touch, you should have sanded this down to get it as smooth as possible. If you leave rough, jagged edges here, thread will continue to catch there, and you don't want that. So make sure you checked that before you put your assembly back together. These you can just polish up. People have asked me, what if I have rust inside the bobbin case base? Well, you can treat it with rust remover, and then if it feels rough to the touch, so for instance, this little part right here, see where it's dark? If that were rough to the touch, I would want to lightly sand and polish that before I put all of this back together. So the first thing that we will do is we are going to put the bobbin case base back into the hook assembly. And you do want to oil this up a little bit. This is where a brush comes in handy. Do you see these little cutouts, like little teeth on the bobbin case base? This is where you will put oil to oil it later, and these little cutouts will catch and hold the oil. I'm taking the bobbin case base with the jib arm out, and I'm just sort of setting it into the hook assembly. And as I'm doing that, I'm turning. I'm trying to find the place where it rests smoothly, and then I can spin it around 360 degrees and it doesn't pop out. That's what I want. Once you get it seated like that, it's okay then to go ahead and close up that jib arm, and that's where the tiniest screw that you should have is going to go. And if you just seat it in there and use your fingertip to kind of give it a couple little turns, then you can come in with your tiny little screwdriver and go ahead and secure it down. Just like that. Now, this should spin freely within the hook assembly. And if you want, you can go ahead and add a little bit of oil there where you see those little teeth. And that oil will then spread and continue to do its job of keeping the bobbin case base spinning freely. And actually what's going to happen, you'll have this finger here on the bobbin case base always pointing up sandwiched between the needle plate, and what's going to spin is the hook itself. That's how it works. So now we can go ahead and put the thread loop guard on the back side of the hook. Find the side that shows you your stamped part numbers. Those are facing out. That bevel that you sanded, it will dip in as it goes towards this hole. If it's dipping in as it goes towards the hole, then you have it turned the right way. Slide it onto your hook assembly, and you're going to just spin it around to where you see that threaded hole and line up the one hole in the thread loop guard with that hole. I probably can use a little bit bigger screwdriver here. And just tighten it down just like that. So now we have the hook assembly assembled. So we can go ahead and put it back onto the shaft. So let's look at how that's going to happen. So you can see I have turned the machine on its back so I can see the underside. And here is the shaft that we're going to slide the hook assembly on. I have my hand on the hand wheel and I'm rotating it towards me, and I'm looking for that flat spot right there. It's easy to spot. There's my flat spot. That's going to face me while I slide this hook assembly back onto the shaft. Now, if you look at your hook assembly, what I'd like you to think about doing is find the hook point, which isn't the jib point, it's right behind the jib point. There's the hook point. Do you see this hole that's close to the hook point? Turn your hook assembly around and find the other hole, so the one that is farthest away from the hook point, and go ahead and start to install that set screw. I'm just going to go ahead and oil up the threads inside, and then I'll take one of my set screws, and the good news is that they are the same size for both holes. So whatever one you want to start first, it doesn't matter. There's not, one only fits in one hole. I'm not going to tighten this down all the way, but I am going to get it started so it doesn't fall out. So give it several turns and then look inside your hook assembly. You do not want to see that set screw starting to poke through the inside. You just want it secured in the hook assembly. Now we can take our hook assembly with the hole that we have not put the set screw in facing us. Oil that, and also oil your hook shaft right here. Give it a nice coating of oil, and the inside of the hook assembly where it's going to slide on the shaft. So with that all lined up, I am going to slide my hook assembly onto the shaft, and I'm going to see that flat spot through the hole that the set screw is going to go in. You should be able to slide this all the way up onto the shaft. You should not have any gap right, see if I can show you, right here. No gap. So now, holding the hook assembly firmly against the shaft, I am screwing in that set screw. And yes, you want to tighten it all the way down now. Just like that. Now, if you are concerned that maybe this spun around, a good way to make sure that you're still on the flat spot is you will see this little screw on the counterbalance, the screw here in the body of the machine, and the screw for the hook assembly all in a little line. That tells you that that set screw is still on the flat spot. I'm just going to make sure that I tightened it down well enough before I start spinning anything around. And that Chapman screwdriver doesn't quite want to fit in the space, so I grabbed a different one. Now I can go ahead and turn my hand wheel, and this is the one that I just secured in. And this is the one I haven't. See, we don't see that other screw here. So I can tighten this one down too. Nice and tight. If you don't tighten this down enough, it can come loose, and that's going to really give you a bad day when you're sewing. So now my hook assembly is back on the shaft. Let's see what this looks like when we turn the machine over. So look at that. We have our hook assembly back onto our featherweight, and our bobbin case base spins around freely. Our hook assembly spins. We're ready for the next step. I do appreciate everyone putting up with my froggy voice. Hopefully by the next video, I'll be pretty much back to normal. Next, what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and install the thread take-up system, possibly along with the needle bar. I want to do that before we put our feed dogs on and the needle plate, only because we want to check the timing of the hook and we want to set the height of the needle bar. And when you have the needle plate on and the feed dogs on, it just makes it a little bit harder to see everything going on with the hook. So next video, we will be reinstalling the thread take-up system and hopefully the needle bar as well. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again real soon.